Well, I've actually got an asshole question along those lines.
All right, go ahead.
You just mentioned Lucas Giolito. He was actually mentioned by our friend, our favorite Bob Nightingale on Twitter this week, where he suggests that Lucas Giolito should be traded and soon, actually, much sort of along the lines of my idea of trading Eduardo Rodriguez from the
So, like, you
Tigers.
stole your idea from Bob Nightingale?
Not for Rodriguez, no. But then I saw he brought up a similar idea for Giolito. The difference, the huge difference between those two is you're in a winning window. You're in a World Series championship window, according
Are
to.
we?
Well, that's the question. According to Rick Hahn, you are. Is he's said many times. This 2023 was really the zenith of it, and we're not seeing that clearly. But the reason it comes up with Giolito specifically is this is the last year of his deal. He's 28 years old. Bob Nightingale, I don't know how he can just say these things. He just said it. The White Sox do not want him back, which he's like saying that as fact. He's also said Eduardo Escobar was going to be a White Sox as a statement of fact, and that hasn't happened as of yet. So he might down the road, who knows? But I think it's irresponsible journalism by Bob Nightingale, who we rip on all the time. But it brings up an interesting point whether you're willing or where the mindset is. I guess it's more of a statement of a question of where the White Sox mindset is. Do they think they can compete for a championship this year? I think there's certainly optimism to potentially turn it around and win this terrible division. But do you think you would be, if you did, do you think you would be a reasonable competition in the playoffs? I think that's what that question comes down to.
Well, sorry, I'm having technical difficulty.
Yeah, we're struggling. It's all right. Take your time.
I'm answer that question in a second. Because of the long delay, this hasn't happened before. My computer is running out of juice.
My screensaver keeps coming on. I can't see you half the time. So
the best assistant in the game who gives me material. She just brought me a charger.
Wow, I didn't hear you ask for that, and she knew that.
I sent her a text. That's why.
That's next level podcasting right there. That's impressive.
I gotta get plugged in.
What is she, about 30 feet away from you? You send her a text message. She comes right off there with the charger.
I just had this horrific idea of me being in mid sentence on a really good thing, and it just goes black. And you're like, ah.
Well, this is how you know we are true professionals now. You gotta. What did we? Not disparagingly call her, very respectfully call her the Major League A-hole's intern.
No, I wouldn't say intern. Maybe she's like what's like a program director in a weird way. She's
the producer.
Yeah, maybe. No, you're more the producer.
Yeah, I guess I'm the producer.
Executive assistant.
That I like that executive.
But
maybe she's an executive producer.
Co-writer.
Wow.
And handler. Maybe she's my handler.
You need a handler. Tell Robin.
I need a handler.
Tell Robin thank you. Her assistance to the podcast is invaluable. We'll try to reward her somehow with. We don't have a beer sponsor anymore, so we can't give her a beer, but we'll figure it out. But that's tremendous.
So to your question, I mean, you have to be realistic about it too, right? This is you finally had a good one because
thank you. Like my asshole question.
I do like it after I made fun of you earlier about it, since you have an asshole every week for the White Sox.
It's not hard to come up with questions for you.
I know that's why some of them are lame because they're obvious. But this one is a conundrum, and here's why. The believer in me says if they're in it at the trade deadline, you don't trade them. But the logical person in me, but it depends on what they look like. If it's they're only going to win because they're only going to be in the playoffs because they're going to make it by being 4 games over 500 and win the AL Central, Okay, so let me run that scenario by you.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done to get to that point, even.
No, but what I'm saying, like if they're at that point,
yeah, sure.
And that's all it's going to take to win the AL Central or somewhere around there, where it's not like an impressive record that makes anyone think the team's going to do anything in the playoffs. Then I think you do have to like start to cut your losses. If, however, they go on some mad tear and are like, and this would be a mad tear. This would be like what the Marlins did that year, or the Red Sox did. And they're like, 10 games above 500 around the trade deadline and looking like all Pistons are popping, then there's no reason to do it. Now, trading them now, I think is a little premature, but also his point is the same as your point. If you are going to do it,
do it now.
You would do it now. As
more value to the team that's trading, you'll get more for him because they'll be getting more starts out of him, more value on their end.
As for this idea that the Sox absolutely do not want him back, I think that's a bit of a reach. The Sox,
he
put on all that weight, all that muscle, and like you said it, and it's never really worked out for a pitcher before when they've done it. He's taken it off, and he looks to be getting back into form. I don't see why they wouldn't re-sign him if he had a good year.
That's what I don't get. That's the whole part of Nightingale's thing that just it struck me as odd that he knew that they've already declared that they don't want him back. Why how could they? They've had him for this is his fifth year, so they know who he is. Maybe they've made that decision, and maybe Bob is privy to that decision. He is the White Sox insider somehow on a national scale. I find that I'm skeptical about his knowledge or lack thereof on that. He states things as fact when they aren't always fact. So
yeah, we know that. Yeah.
It makes his point much easier if they've already decided that they're not going to bring him back, that you just trade him away. So maybe that's the lazy journalism he's trying to get away with again, but
yeah, I'm
trying to peer into your soul about your White Sox with this asshole question.
Let me rephrase this simpler. Okay. Then I was giving like exact details. If the only reason they're going to make the playoffs, and what I mean by that is if the only reason is they're going to make the playoffs is simply because they're in the AL Central, then they need to trade Lucas Giolito. If the reason they're going to make the playoffs is because they have stayed the course, and I'm going to get to that in a second. They have stayed the course in what this coaching staff has been preaching, and they're now functioning as a feasible baseball team, then you don't trade them.
So you're doing what I do all the time. I come up with both sides. I basically answer the question in two different ways. So well done.
I can't in May make this. In June, I might have a different answer.
Here's a different way to phrase it to kind of pin you down.
Okay, pin me down.
You get a decent, maybe not the world breaking, not like the top prospect in all of baseball, but you get a very significant offer for his services right now, today. And you have to pull the trigger today. What do you do? It would depend, of course, on the prospect. Somebody you would be interested in, I guess, is something interesting at least.
No.
Okay.
I don't today.
You answered the question.
There you go.
And then, but that would also mean you don't get to trade them if things fall apart. And that was it.
Fine. That's fine.
Okay, so you just lose them.
I'm just used to it anyway. So.
You've been beaten down.
I've been beaten down so many times. I'm conditioned for this question, Smitty.
Yeah. All right. Well, you answered it.
Just let him go for nothing.
I appreciate you finally gave me credit for a good asshole question. I appreciate you answered it honestly. You did your best.
Very good. Very good.
We got a little insight into how the soul of Pete Veneri works. That's exactly what asshole is all about. So well done.
Wordhole Media.